but we're a little behind on that because of everything else happening in our lives. Um, but I want to see with people that are interested in integrate the research and come to the call and see who wants to help and what can we do to achieve our goals. Because really this month, our goal was to gather as many articles as we could and more information as we could to get the information for the research.
I didn't realize that's what we were doing this last week. I think I missed something. I think I missed something. You guys were grabbing, or everyone was grabbing links and resources and stuff?
Well, it was just me and Anna,
Mm,
because nobody else seemed interested in doing the hard work. People was just throwing ideas,
I
but
see.
nobody was really, yeah.
I, I wasn't tracking that. That's something I can help with. I have a whole angle I'm approaching this where the population, I believe, is increasingly autistic and we're not given tools to diagnose, and other people are not given tools to diagnose us either. That's like something that I'm already researching and trying to like
Mhm.
articulate.
Well, actually, Durgada sent me a lot of information. He was the one that like he really put a lot of links to me. He I need to give him the credit for that. He gave me a lot of information to go
Hmm.
through, but he was the only one to like. But it's fine too. We knew that like this research is more like hard work, like handwork kind of thing.
Are you still accepting
Yeah,
support there, or are you done? Okay.
yeah, 100%.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I talked to Satori, but he's also in another kind of research. It seems to me that like there is a lot of research going on, and what I could get from Omega was the library to go through. And um there was I forgot her name. Nick.
Senbem? Oh,
Nick. Yeah, she sent me a couple links to help me onboard to Omega, but I wasn't able to go through that yet. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's I think it's fine to like a lot of people going on in their own things. So I just sent on the Gravity chat the link for the where we put in the information about our calls. If you like want to share any content, any links, I'm gonna put the links that Durga has sent to me over there too. About Omega.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
I say this as a contributor out of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to be bringing in psychology, like psychologists, like psychology, or do we want to be empowering people with like the emotional, social, relational tools that we like don't have developed that like push people towards needing therapy? Like, is this about bringing more psychology and potential pathologizing into the space, or raising people's social and emotional awareness so that they learn how to co-regulate with one another and our emotions are less outsourced to like medical? I say that because marginalized people are prone to being neglected and emotionally and psychologically abused in these medical systems. So
Yeah.
I wonder what it's like to not label so much the work that people are doing and be building emotional and relational tools like stuff like that.
Yeah. I think like the idea is to bring more psychologists to Web3, to have more people that can come to the space and have more resources where people can go to and feel safe about talk about their personal lives, and also bring more awareness of yeah, about these other things that you were talking about, that like, you know, self observers, um and like more content about psychology. So I think it's a little bit of both. So yeah,
Thanks.
I see what you're saying, because it's like, okay,
I know
we're
they're from all modalities, I think, and it's like, yeah, just noticing that people need like different things to heal and different things to feel safe and different kinds of people to talk to. I guess it's making me feel like it's a narrowed search, searching for psychologists, bringing psychologists to the web. Like that feels like a pocket, and it feels like narrow. I guess my brain's having a hard time with it. Like it feels binary for me. I get stuck on binaries. I don't like to like operate within them, and I'm like feeling that
Mhm.
binary thing. And it's not that I want to like break rules. It's just that I know that binaries don't actually
Mhm.
fill the spectrum. Mm.
Yeah, the idea is like to trying to understand what our community needs. So maybe what I'm thinking to bring psychologists is what it's like the opposite. We don't need that. So it's like, what do we need? And what can we do? Is it to bring more information? Is it to bring more knowledge? Is it to bring to light things that for so long time people are just neglecting?
Mhm.
Because it's also hard because like, it's hard to put those topics because people are just so busy with their own stuff that like sometimes they don't want to hear about those people over here that are suffering from this thing that they don't suffer. So for them it's fine, but they don't sympathize. So they don't want to stop their life to listen to those people. But we do want to like bring it up and say like, hey, we want a voice too. Does it make sense?
Yeah. When I was thinking about, like, links to provide and things, that was also like, yeah, what's my intention here? Like, what sort of resources are we looking for? Um, a part of what I do, on my side quest is the authentic relating piece, and it's trying to give people in society, the social and emotional tools to talk about their feelings,
Mhm.
because I think that's, like, where we lost our way in our youth, especially, like, boys not being allowed to talk about their feelings, then we wonder why, like, there's so much violence to our
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's just I have tons of resources. I'm trying to think of, like, what to share and what to bring and what this container needs, based on what it's, like, asking for. Because I
Mhm.
know everybody's kinda doing their own thing, so I'm trying to fold in the places
Got it.
that are doing things.
Yeah. Well, for now, we're focusing on we have this um we put like keywords to look for on articles. That's mental health on technology information workspace because we saw that like we don't have a lot of articles that talk about mental health on blockchain or on Web3. So technology information is the most close that we could get. So we're looking for keywords. So mental health on technology information workspace, implementing psychology on organizations, remote work, burnout, sleep deprivation, social psychology in DAOs. And social psychology in DAOs, we would look in Medium, Twitter, Gitcoin website, Harmony website, and things like that. So those are like the key words that we thought that we want to bring first in this first phase of the research. So we want to see like how people are taking care of themselves over everything else that they're doing on Web3. So I think now I understand better what your question was um of like what things to bring and what links to give. Um so yeah, so it's like um not just like awareness of those other things and like it's going on, but maybe more work-related things that we were thinking about.
Apologies, I have this like multitask thing going. I was listening to you but staring at the document too. Just kind of reading what was pulled forward. Do you feel like you need help with now? Just the same stuff still?
Yeah, it's more like um now, like in last next week will be the last week that we are trying to close up all the articles that we're gonna look for to finish and um start building the survey.
Mm.
Yeah. Anna has a lot of those articles, so I wish she was here. She texted me earlier today, but she's not even online.
Like zines. Zines are some of my same favorite things. I've noticed that zine culture is the accessibility option for people with disabilities who are not allowed to have a voice. So the most I've learned about my own mental health and like healthy ways of coping and relating with human beings, most of it came from zines. Um, I ran into a lot of pathology and like parental and doctor pathology around ADHD and stuff, like trying to unpack my own neurodiversity. And it wasn't until I heard the voices of other people who actually have the things that could speak to the experiences. They go into places and share their story, and people are like, yeah, I don't think that's what you have. And then you read about it and you're like, oh my God, that's what I have too. It's like, cool. Great, people are talking. Hmm.
That's cool. That's interesting.
Hmm.
Can you share that?
I did. I put it in the Gravity Channel, this
Oh,
zine, and it's interesting. When I share it with people, like internationally, one of the first things I have to like, I say is I'm like, hey, this word queer attachment, it doesn't have anything to do with like a person being queer. It's just these
mm-hmm.
strange attachments we have. Uh, and even when you learn about attachment theory, you kind of learn it. If you learn it through like the medical industry, you learn about very specific avenues about attachment. And they kind of talk about attachment as this is what happens when you have like messed up relationships with your caregivers. But it's very rare that you find them talking about the attachments that you develop from your friendships in school, that like friend that you had that like took advantage of you all through elementary school. It's like it's not just our parents and it's not just in our youth. Our attachments evolve between partners, between relationships. And we don't typically stay in one island. We float around between the different attachment styles based on where our needs are at the time. That blew my mind. Stuff like this blows my mind because it actually allows you to like do something with yourself afterwards.
That's very interesting because, like, through all those attachments, actually, of course, you're building your personality, and through those attachments, it becomes the relationships that you're gonna build. and the relationship to yourself, right?
Mhm.
It's like the way that
Yep.
you treat yourself. It's because of all that pattern that you learn through those attachments that you got in your life, in your own history.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
in psychology, we say that an individual is built by three histories. So his human history, like his ancestrals, his biologies, and all that. His family and culture history, like where you're born and your family, in your own history, like things that you go through yourself. Because even though you can be twins, but your twin went through something that was different, like he captured something different than you did. So that reflected in him different than did in you. So he got a different life history than you did. So it's that like three histories. So that's very interesting that like to put that way, those attachments.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, this book unlocked that for me because I get frustrated when I read books. I never had word for it. I used to obsess over psychology books. I didn't know I was autistic, and I was very curious about people and behavior, so I've kind of obsessed over this, like, my whole life, not really knowing, and then in my, like, mid-30s, I was like, "Oh, light bulb. No wonder why you're obsessed with this crap." By
Wow.
default, you don't understand things, so you're aggressively out of survival mode trying to figure out how things work, and, like, this gave me a lot of tools at breaking down the own binaries that I had in my head because I'm aggressively trying to find my blind spots and
Mhm.
rid them, to be more aware. More aware means more mental wellness, but also more overwhelm at, like, the realities of the world and the heaviness of it, but,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of an obsession of mine.
Wow. Um, I'm sorry if I'm being too much, but how do you discover that you were autistic? Any
I
kind
had
of
a
answer.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I'm not I can answer any question about mental health. I literally have self-diagnosed and wrote my whole entire, like, diagnosis out and published it on the web and, like, gave tons of examples of how things manifest for me for other people. Not afraid of this.
Wow.
Um
Did you self-diagnosed?
Yeah, I've tried going through places. My last time I was in a place, I had a breakdown in this and I was crying and I was like, "Why don't you think I'm autistic?" And the lady was just like, "I don't think you are." And I was like, "I can't believe how much school you have and how oblivious you are." Like, I was so mad. I was like, "I'm done with therapy now." I couldn't do it anymore. Yeah, absolutely. Mhm. Thank you so much for asking. Mhm. You wanna hit me with your question one more time so I can focus?
Yeah. How did you discover that you were autistic?
Thank you. I had a partner at the time, a few years ago, and I remember saying, "Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure I'm on the spectrum, I just don't understand it." And my partner was like, "I don't think you're on the spectrum." And, um, I was just kinda like, "Huh." It was the first time that they ever said something where they invalidated my experience, and even though I didn't really have words for, like, what my experience was, I had a feeling I was on the spectrum somehow. Um But I didn't know enough about the spectrum, but I understood that my behavior might have put me on there for certain reasons. And they said that, and then they felt like crap afterwards, and they went and they spoke to this, autistic gentleman who sends them, messages, when he gets long-winded messages from people, he sent it to my ex, and he would be like, "This is what I read, and this is what I interpreted. Can you, like, check my perception on, like, what I'm perceiving here based on the words that are written?" And she would do that for him. And, she went to him and was like, "Hey, I said this thing to my partner, and I think it was pretty crappy." And he was like, "Yeah, wow, no, that was, like, kind of the shittiest thing you could possibly say." And he gave her a bunch of zines, and he gave me this zine that broke down, comorbidities, and it showed me the way that the, DSM, is separated, like, it basically put it back together. Somebody figured out the way that the autism spectrum has been fractalized in the DSM and, like, spread out throughout the book, to where it's like doctors get to, like, kind of, like, choose your own adventure, where based off of all the insight that they're holding, they get to, like, try to figure out what those things could possibly be, find the right bucket to put the ball in. But neurodiversity is actually, like, pretty obvious how it's broken down. It's broken down to, like, learning disabilities and psychological and, uh, I'm forgetting the topics off the top of my head. I can run and grab, the thing, but it was from it was from that, and then it was from, reading this,
You're reading design?
what'd you say?
You were reading the design when you discover it?
Yeah, I was reading a zine. I was kind of unpacking by, like, rabbit hole reading, after I started to, like, realize that I was on the spectrum, then I was, like, trying to figure out what exactly the spectrum was.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow, that's so impressive.
yep, and then I ran into all the things that all the waves that happen. There's, like, the, imposter syndrome is, like, a
Mhm.
wave of it because there isn't, like, proper ways in our society to, like, share how people are. This is a document that I put together from, is this it, or is this the Asperger's thing? This is a checklist. I found this checklist that frustrated me, um, pretty early on, and since then, I have to, like, find the other one that I have, but I took and I made this gender neutral because 'cause I've sat down with at least 20 men, and they've looked at this female Asperger's, worksheet thing, and with me using, like, neutral language as I read through it and express it to, like, people, I've
Mhm.
had people of any gender identify themselves off of this as, like, "Yeah, that's ringing a lot of bells for me." And I noticed that when I would read things about neurodiversity, there's, like, this something about normalness that I can't quite put my finger on that's, like, deeply ingrained, and it's just a nuance, and it does this thing where it takes me a while to recognize some of the things. Like, I would read stuff and I'd be like, "That's not me." And then a few months later, I'm like, "Holy shit, I do this," but it, like, manifests this way. Like, I just couldn't see how I did the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so like, for me, it amazes me because studying psychology for 5 years now,
Mhm.
um, I have amazing teachers, and since the day one that I've been in psychology, we've been in practice all the time. So I've been in schools, I've been in hospitals, I've been in clinics, I've been like talking to people, I've been talking to homeless, I've been in a lot of different areas
Mhm.
practicing.
Mhm.
because my college is a reference in Brazil when it comes to psychology, because we are very what we say humanistic, and it's
Mm.
different because we treat people as human beings, right? And it's so different when we see psychology in US because
Mhm.
it's a diagnose. And
Mhm.
when we read things from US, and like US is great to develop tests. It's great. We use the test, but we don't put the labels. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
frustrates me, the psychology that comes from US, and like all the experiences that I hear from people that were in therapy in America
Mhm.
and were in the counselor, or were in this and that. And even here in TC, where I heard people saying like, um, oh, but um we don't need people with a degree here. And it's like so frustrating for me because I I'm being like actively studying
Oh.
what's the best for people, and it's not like bullshit. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
there's a
And
lot. That's why I started with I'm in the United States. That's why I started with that, 'cause I was like I was trying to name, and I don't think I did a good job, but, like, we have a lot of medical trauma, even
yeah,
if we don't know how to talk about it. And so, like, it's like, I'm yes, yes, yes to mental health and whatever, and then, yeah, I will, like, get prickly about, like, bringing in subject matter experts, like, especially within the US, because 'cause they're not subject matter experts.
yeah,
Like
no. So I'm like, let me try to give you a view from the psychology that we have in Brazil. Because at least here, we try to treat people as humans. And we are not trying to like get your money. No, we do it for free here. Um, health resource in Brazil are for free. So we really care about people that we are treating. So for me, it's like pressures to be in touch with somebody, you know, and to listen to people's history and all of that. And that's why I ask you. And thank you so much for sharing that. That's very valuable. I thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Mhm. Yeah, I want you to know that I'm a cheerleader for everything you're doing, and I sound prickly when I talk about psychology. I pray you don't take it personal.
Thank you so much. I'm a cheerleader for you. I love your work. I love you. Like you don't even know, but I'm like in the background looking at everything that you're doing.
Mm.
I wanna meet you in person, and like you and Morgan. I'm like, I look at you guys. I'm like, oh my god, their work is just like so cool that I wanna.
Yo, I'm a cheerleader for Morgan. I've been in community with them for a few years and, like, not really known them, and in this pandemic, we were kinda like, "Hey, what's your story?" And then we started working together, and it's like we finish each other's sentences. They help me with my ADHD because 'cause I'm always forgetting, like, as I'm speaking, I'll get really excited, and I'll totally drop the thing I'm thinking, and then they help me, and I'm like, "Yes, this is
Wow,
it."
that's so nice. That's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that gets me very excited. I could be talking for hours about it. But yeah, so that's kind of like a little bit also what I want to do with the research. It's bring that like self-awareness around. But here is more focusing in work, like to be like we do work here, but at the same time, how can we separate personal work to work hours?
Yo, we always talk about how important the work is. That should be, like, a dedicated thing. Could you imagine, like I'm daydreaming now. Could you imagine just, like, a future where, there's, like I like to imagine that I'll have seasons. I'll know what I wanna be doing seasonally. My future is dreamy. It's got where I acknowledge that I like to I learn, and so I have, like, this, like, winter thing that happens. I'm trying to figure out these rituals where it's, like, in the winter season, maybe these, like, first few months, like, maybe there's, like, stuff that happens with, like, plants, but maybe there's also stuff that happens with learning, and it's, like,
Yeah.
deep learning, and then the following month is, like, integrating it, putting it into practice, and then etcetera. I keep thinking about how to create a future where we are, because 'cause I'm trying to get more in touch with my, like, indigenous parts and understanding that I got landlocked by our culture to where we, like, stay in one place and don't go anywhere. I'm already out of ritual in my body with, like, my genetics and my lineage. I'm supposed to be moving with the land and as the seasons change and growing and living, and growing food and living that way.
Yeah.
So, like, to kinda reset those, like, natural human mammal cycles, I'm trying to figure out how I work and learn and retain and hibernate. Like, I'm thinking about, like, those mental seasons of, like, doing and winding down and integrating. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, just in this moment, I was like, when you said do the work, I was like, yeah, what if your job, right? The future of work, the gig economy, what if the future of work, like part of that is like there are hours reserved for like reflection or connection around quote unquote the work, the unpacking that we have.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I do connect with those things that you said.
Mm.
Yeah, I connect with that. Oh, I'm sorry, it's my mom.
It could be neat to make a toolbox, um, because like I know that the reason why I went to therapy in the first place, wasn't because I thought that they were gonna tell me anything about myself. It's because I knew that in the United States, actual resources, the tools, the techniques to tell people, the shit to try is all gate kept behind these things. So I didn't legit even know how to, like, get grounded in my body when I first started doing these things. How they say, like, look around the room and, like, look at certain things or sniff something or X, Y, and Z. Like, I had no fucking tools, and I feel like they're all gate kept. There's all kinds of, like, methods and techniques, um, for, like, being well, but, we actually, like, have to pay a whole lot of money to even, like, figure out what those are. So I think a neat thing would be, creating a toolbox of resources. You know how you have, like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is like a reflection tool to kind of, like, visualize and see what your, like, needs could be, things like that, but having kinda like how the library does at Omega, having something similar that's, like,
Mhm.
specific to, like, tools that allow people's, like, own brains to unpack things, just like because
Yeah.
human beings are smart, they just need the context for the things to understand and integrate it. You just have to storytell next to it and be like, "Try this."
Yeah, that was my idea. In my first presentation, I don't know if you remember, where I put up the tools that like we could use, that like we could
Mhm.
say like in the beginning of the week or like at the end of the week, like how do you feel? But like something that it's also private, that's like just selected people would have access to it. So we know that like everything that you say, it's gonna be confidential, right?
Mhm.
So you can be totally honest on that form or like um whatever tool it is. That says like, so how are you feeling? Super honest. Like, oh, I'm feeling good. Oh, I'm feeling like crap, I'm feeling super stressed. Oh, I feel that I have a conflict with this person, or I feel that I wasn't heard. Like things that you can point out and you can
Mm,
highlight, and also things that you can write down specific, right?
yeah,
So that would be
yeah,
like either the beginning of the week or the end of the week or both. And also tools that will be like the hours, like within hours that people will be online available for something that you demand, or you can schedule a time. That's my idea to bring psychologists to Web3, that like you can schedule time to talk to someone, to say like,
yep,
hey, like what I did when I came to Brazil, I was feeling so off because through the pandemic, I just went through so many changes, um,
mhm,
physical changes, mental changes, like so many changes that I had to sit down and visit a lot of doctors to understand what was going on to my body. And
right.
then after that, when I sat down to a therapist, I was like, what's going on?
That's a lot because when your body changes, when you change, the way you look actually changes, your social identity shifts. People perceive you and treat you differently,
Yeah,
based on the way you look. So that can be deregulating too, to be the same person but treated differently.
yeah. And I feel that
Mhm.
I'm a totally different person too, so that changed also.
Yep, yeah.
So it was
Gross.
it was really a lot that changed. And then like I got tattoos, I never had tattoos, and now my body's full up with tattoos. So I'm totally different. I used to wear my hair straight, now I went back to curl. I didn't know my hair was curly, so I just let it grow as it was, and now I use the curly hair. So it was really a lot. And then like to have that space where like people can go and just be, that's my idea, to bring
Okay.
psychologists to Web3, where they
Mhm,
can like schedule a meeting and then, but that's the thing, like people think about psychology therapy as the US example type
mhm.
of thing. So they think it very straight and very labeled in that. But
Yeah.
that's not
We
what I
we've been
believe.
harmed pretty bad here by these systems, so there's a lotta that's a part of the reason why we need the awareness on neurodiversity, because I believe that it's genetic and it's spreading, not like a
Yeah,
disease, but
yeah,
and I
it's
think
not
that's
a
what people.
disease. It's something that now we have more knowledge of too. Because it's
Yeah,
not
just
something
gotta be
that's
our
new.
typical.
It's not something that
Yep.
just came up this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
It's the
something that
Western
was already
influence that
there.
creates these biases around it.
Yeah. And now we have more knowledge of it. So we need to talk about those things.
Yeah, 'cause something I'm thinking about is, you're talking about, like, in the beginning of the week, at the end of the week, and I'm thinking of the things that I already do, maybe even to help people. Um, 2 things is something I always check is my withholdings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's any conversation I haven't had with somebody yet, like any feelings that I'm feeling that I have yet to express, um, that could be an area for a human being to unpack. There's like potentially self-worth hiding there, when people are not actually expressing their stuff like in a time, like in time, like when it's present, as opposed to like, oh, I'll do it later. Or it's like these ways that we're trying to protect relationships, but can make ourselves small. Like that's a thing that I would want people to reflect on weekly is like, hey, what withholdings do you have? Like have people get in the habit of trying to get rid of some of the avoidance, especially in my society and my culture here. Like there's so much avoidance
Yeah.
seeped into our culture that I like that
Mhm.
feels like a social justice, like, psychological way to, like, counter that almost. Um,
Yeah.
and the other thing is, I reflect with intention. I always have, like, a nugget or a few nuggets that I'm holding, something that I wanna work on. Um, Before I came into the Web3 world and before I really started, like, deeply researching reward systems, I was just working with them. Something I heard from Letitia Nito, was notice where labor is allocated, and from that, I wrote, "Notice how and where labor is allocated," and those 2 note like, that little note gave me so much insight researching reward systems and the behavior and people around them. So yeah, I think just having, like, guided things too, or, like, something to look at, like, at the present, I'm splitting binaries, like, everywhere I find or run into binaries in my own thought, I'm, like, reevaluating that and expanding my what it was that I thought before based on what I know now. So
Mhm.
I think, like, key things like that, giving people, like, things to work out or be mindful of. Once you start doing that as a practice, then you start developing it on your own. Then you're like, "Oh, I wanna focus on this." And then you just, like, are better with your subconscious work. I don't know, just ideas I'm having. I'm, like, visualizing a form that people fill out weekly, and I'm like, "What does this look like?"
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I do want to build that tool. I think we can really use it. And also we need to see if people are gonna accept it. Because for us it sounds awesome, but maybe people are not gonna use it. You know
Oh,
what I
it sounds awesome because it is awesome. I think people will use it. I've done this stuff, like, by hand for people, and they have. I think the people who are tuning in and leaning in and get something out of it will be excited.
Because I'm just worried about this, like, and it is something that happens. People just get into work, work, work. That like what we were talking in the beginning when we were checking in. We get into this so much that we forget out here. We
Mhm.
forget what's going on. And we need to come back and like step back and say, okay, I do need to pay attention to myself and those things that you say, like my feelings and my mind
Mhm.
and my body.
Totally.
So what a way that people can understand how important it is.
Well, I think these tools work best when they allow people to see their own patterns and movement. So to keep a tool like this from being a static thing where you just, like, fill out a form and it collects your data, it should be doing something with your data on the other end for the person. So if I'm filling out this thing and now I'm just thinking about what things are fun or what feels good, I'm like, "Shit, there needs to be, like, slider bars and stickers and stuff." Like, maybe there's, like,
Mhm,
5-star stickers and you like, how do you make it interactive and
mhm,
allow people to, like, reflect a little bit, but engage with it? I'm like, because now I'm thinking about neurodiversity and stimming and tactileness and, like, integrating a physical movement with even if it's just writing, I don't know. Like, how
yeah,
do you make it super interactive? I feel like that's the
mm,
thing that would make it would show people their behavior trends and things. And that withholding, could you imagine if the people started to see, like, a little chart that showed them how long they're holding on to shit, not actually, like, expressing it, and then, like, their overall health is, like, dipping, and they can see the correlation themselves of, "Oh, I haven't said the thing." I genuinely think this, like, creating data for people to see how their own everybody believes in statistics, everybody believes in math As soon as you start talking about anything in identity politics, they're like, "Prove it. Show me where is that written?" They're like, "I need
Mhm.
alphabet pasta behind that to believe you." So it's like, what if people are generating their own data, reflecting back to them, like, they're able to use their own eyeball? Because you can't tell anybody, "Hey, there's I don't think something's off." But people could notice if they had the right tools to notice if something was off on them. Because ego. What if they had the tools to notice that things were off?
True.
Mm.
I was writing down as you were saying.
Like, how do we automate this thing you wanna make? How do we make it, like, do data stuff and populate stuff? We're in, like, the coolest place in the world. There's so many people on the edges that could probably help make that come true. I just got really excited. I was like, "I wanna use that daily."
Yeah. I wanna make it happen. We need a developer. Where is the developer? Well, we reached the top of the hour. Um, it was so great to chat with you. Thank you so much for your insights. It was very nice to be sharing. Um, I am a different person after this, 100%. Thanks for coming and chatting with me. Thank you, Bear, for being here and recording it for us. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
checking in
you.
too. Oh, okay, we'll keep in the loop. Um, I think we were gonna change the date of the research call. I'm gonna open a tool and put it on Gravity to see what's the best time because I think Anna is having a hard time to come to this time to the call. And she is also um a person that it's with me in in front of the team. Yeah, thank you guys very much. I hope you enjoy your weekend and let's keep in touch. Thank you, you too. Bye. Thank you, Aloysius.
Thank you, thank you. I hope you both have a wonderful evening, day, week. I don't even know.
Thank you.